Hello, Hannah the Suburban Witch here, and today I am, in my evangelical mindset, going to be reviewing Prosper, which is a TV series on the streaming service Stan here in Australia. This TV series is focused on the Christian megachurches here in Australia. That's the inspiration, and it's absolutely not inspired by Hillsong whatsoever. And I'm very excited to get into it. If you're new to me or my channel, I am Hannah. I am an ex-evangelical. I was an evangelical Christian. Now I am not. Now I am a professional tarot reader, astrologer, and witch, and I teach people the art of deconstructing from the fear of the Christian church. If you're interested in that sort of thing, I actually have a class coming out this March 2024, which is on deconstructing from the fear of the rapture doctrine specifically. All relevant links will be in the description box to this episode. So this is a little bit different for me. This is totally unusual. Usually I'm doing tarot unboxings and teaching about tarot, but I watched this series and I just have to talk about it. I have to talk about it. And no one else seems to have done any form of reaction video, so why not be the first? If you're wondering what's up with the scarf, by the way, I am trying a new thing to get out of some wardrobe habits I was in, and I'm pulling a card every day and dressing in accordance with what's on the card. So today was the Judgment card, which is actually weirdly aligned with the evangelical content that I'm creating today, especially my Rapture class. You can see what the card looks like here. I've put little crosses on my eye makeup in pink, yellow for the trumpet, yellow in my hair. It's fun. I have fun with my spirituality these days. So Prosper, what is this? Prosper is set in the inner sanctum of an evangelical megachurch run by the wealthy Quinn family. When their charismatic founder announces a US expansion, the collision between faith and ambition threatens to tear his family and church apart. This is an Australian television drama. It is set in Sydney. Now, look, nothing in here says anything about Hillsong, but the similarities are uncanny. It's set in Sydney, right? Which is exactly where Hillsong is. The fictional church they've named in this series is called U Star Church, and it is a big, beautiful, shiny mega church. The family themselves are a very tight-knit family. Everyone is in some form of ministry in the church, as is the way. And the head pastor and the pastor's wife are played by Richard Roxburgh and Rebecca Gibney, and they've done an amazing job.
Coach. You had a breakdown. You were digging in the backyard in your pajamas in the middle of the night.
I am fine.
Now, to preface this, I did watch this 2 months ago when it came out. It was on my little notify me when it comes out type of watch list because I had to get my hands on it. Now, in episode 1, straight out the gate, literally 12 minutes into episode 1, they've already brought up private jets, fraudulent spending, and political ties. Now, by the end of episode 1, we have very clear toxic family dynamics.
Family is everything to us. We've been blessed with 4 beautiful children.
Prodigal son sucks.
I don't know how you show your face around here.
What? It's very hard to hear you these days, mate, when your head's this far up Dad's ass.
Which, coming from someone who lived and grew up and breathed the church for the first 16 years of my life, most of the family dynamics within the church are toxic. We see some hints of prosperity gospel. Now, if you've never heard of prosperity gospel, it is very, very popular with the church. Pastor, I don't even want to use the term pastor, but Pastor Brian Houston wrote a book in 1999 called You Need More Money. I believe in some churches that was very controversial. In many others, it was welcomed and received with a lot of applause. This is the whole concept of prosperity gospel is you give more, you receive more. The more you tithe, the more you get back. You give 10%, you get back times 7. We actually see this a lot in people coming out of Christianity and going into the New Age sort of thing with the whole law of attraction stuff. Yeah, no, there's a lot of privilege in that, and It's just not how it works. But I digress. So we have prosperity gospel. We have a big emphasis on the music, which is what Hillsong is famous for.
Standing on my holy ground, you turned my world around. Yeah, I was lost, but now I'm found.
We see a celebrity baptism that's posted all over social media, and there is excess in abundance. Now, I must give credit to whoever chose, did the scene decorating. It doesn't feel like scene decorating. Who chose the scenes where their house, the pastor's house is. So the Quinn family lives in this house overlooking the ocean. It is gorgeous, but everything is cold and stark. You know those rich people houses? It's very minimal, but it feels cold. There's no actual life and personality in it. I loved the vibe that this brought through, just in the whole set, just in where everything was being filmed for this family. It was beautiful. And the other thing that was already evident in episode 1 is dodgy Christian counseling, which then comes up later in the series as well as being used to blackmail people. And I think, that's exactly what can happen in some churches. I can see they've done their research in creating this. They've been very careful not to make it about Hillsong, but oh God, the inspiration is 100% there. Now, my only critique so far in episode 1, and even halfway through into episode 2, the preaching examples by Cal Quinn, the character, done by Richard Roxburgh, they just don't feel authentic to me. Richard Roxburgh is a very charismatic person. He's a wonderful actor, but I don't think he has the right flavor of charismatic je ne sais quoi for portraying a pastor in this way. If you have lived and breathed the evangelical church like me, you will know what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you a little clip now so you can see how it just kind of falls flat for me.
And then he told them, go into all the world and preach the good news to everyone. The season for planting has arrived.
Now in episode 2, we get, there's all the drama aspects. I'm not going to go into the full storyline of exactly what's happening. I'm really just critiquing the evangelical aspect and the ex-evangelical take on it all. In episode 2, we get this beautiful line.
You were in a hotel room, alone, with a woman who is not your wife.
Nothing happened.
Oh, what if it gets out?
And I just heard that and thought, oh my God, Brian Houston must be squirming in his seat right now. Because that directly relates to a scandal that he was caught up in, where he was found in the hotel room of a woman who was not his wife. He blamed his anti-anxiety medication. It was a whole thing. But I just love that line got put in there. Now, the other issue that comes up in this one is in episode 2, they title the episode Glossolalia, and they do try to portray speaking in tongues. I think there is a very real difference between someone pretending to speak in tongues and someone who believes they are speaking in tongues. The sound is different. The vibe is different. It is just different. And again, this one sort of fell flat for me. So by 2 episodes in, I'm enjoying it. It's good. Personally, I'm not always the biggest fan of Aussie dramas in general. I don't know what it is. I think I prefer BBC dramas if I'm going to choose one. They're just better quality, and this was good quality. I don't know, I have some inner biases I have to address, but I do think that the Netflix drama Greenleaf did a better job of portraying the corruption, the greed, the negative aspects in a mega church environment. Whilst Greenleaf is not evangelical strictly speaking, they did a really good job of that. This one, they're getting there. There's tastes of it, but it's just missing something. I'll just let you know. There will be spoilers in this. I don't know if you have watched this already or if you're going to watch it, but just FYI. So by episode 3, we've got this, prodigal son, Jed, who's come back into the fold, blah, blah, blah. He seems like the actual real Christian who's doing real Christian stuff on the outside. But all I can think of, I can't get into his character development because all I can think of is that he looks like a young Justin Timberlake. You can see that, right? And in episode 3, I am still very, very confused how everybody is related. they've shown us that there's this family, but someone's not their mum and this person is not quite in, this person's adopted. Like, it's just a bit confusing as someone watching and trying to get into it and trying to figure it all out. I mean, I'm watching with subtitles and I'm still sitting here going, how, I know you're in the family, but how are you in the family? At this point, I'm kind of sure that Izzy and Benji live in a house next door to their parents, Cal and Abby, but they could also live in the same house. Is it just one big house? Is it two separate houses? I'm not 100% sure. And then there's Moses, who lives downstairs, and it's a bit confusing. Now, then we have this character, Juno, and Juno is sort of coming into this as a new Christian, which I am not enjoying her character. She's been very anti-Christian from the start, and then to be won over in this way was a little unbelievable. But I also think this sort of thing does happen, and we're getting to see some of the insidious ways, I guess the insidious ways that Christianity can be woven into everything, into your rent, your job, your social circle, and the ways that it can be then very hard to extricate yourself later on.
Honestly, if you want it, it's yours. $180 per week plus bills.
Why is it so cheap?
A woman from church owns it. So, you in?
Lots of fingers in lots of different pies. All right, episode 4 has this gem.
What if he doesn't walk again?
They just prayed.
You heard what the surgeon said.
Hey. That's doubt. That's the devil, Dad. What?
I'm getting goosebumps because that is powerful, because this is what freaking happens in the church. You're not allowed to have any fear. You're not allowed to have any worry. This is why we term evangelical churches high control religion. A high control religion means they are literally teaching you or training you to control your thoughts. You can't express a negative thought because that's doubt, that's the devil. You can't then think those thoughts because then you're told that is the devil speaking to you, that is demons whispering in your ears. So you're constantly trying to edit your own thoughts to be in line with what you want to manifest or you want to be blessed with. This is really dangerous. This is really detrimental to people's mental health. And then in the church, we know that mental health isn't real and we'll pray it away. So I think this is a really critical moment. I'm really, really glad that they showed this one. Like, the spiritual bypassing in this episode is chef's kiss. Now, at this point in the series, after episode 4, I do stand by my previous comment that Richard Roxburgh is not the right actor for this role. Just not charismatic enough to be portrayed as an evangelical preacher. I'm going to give a side-by-side example of what Richard Roxburgh does and what I would have expected to see.
Doubt is the devil, because God was always with me. God had never left my side. He was holding my boy's hand the whole time. And you know how I know it? Because he answered me.
Fresh oil. Fresh oil. Father, anoint every prophet. Anoint every pastor.
Could fight the good fight and take the word of God forward all through the Roman Empire, if not for these chains. But here's what he does. He looks at the thing that seems to be holding him back. And he says, I didn't choose these chains. I didn't want to be here. I don't like prison food. I don't like this orange jumpsuit. I don't want to be here. I hope God gets me out. I'd like to be back with you. I did not choose these chains.
So we can see he doesn't have the lilting speech, the dramatic pauses, bouncing on his toes. I'm so used to preachers, you know, they've got their Bible and they're hitting it on their hand. And then they stop. And we hear the music. They bring it back in. Their voice, the cadence of their voice, it lulls you into this like mesmerizing, fixated state. And we don't get that with him. I can see he's doing his best, but it just makes me feel like he's never been in that world properly before. Kind of feels a little flat and forced, in my opinion. Richard Roxburgh, you're an amazing actor. I am just very picky Not that, I mean, if you watched this, oh my God. But just in case you do, I'm trying not to be harsh. You're an amazing actor. It's just a little flat on the actual evangelical style. Take some acting notes from me. Oh my God. So then we get to episode 5. Now, episode 5 I was very excited for because we start to showcase the women's conference concept. You know, the whole women and men being separate. It's very gender polarity vibes when you're in the church. Traditional gender roles and all that jazz. Now, as a frequent attendee of Hillsong's Women's Colour Conference, I was really hoping they were going to do this justice. So in this episode, I was very, very happy to see that they showcased the love offering scam for what it is. So this episode could have even been inspired by this article, which I will link down below. And I was talking to my husband about this after this episode, and he was shocked. He grew up Catholic, and not even like devout Catholic, just like going twice a year. He could not understand the concept of a love offering. So a love offering is when pastors from other churches or from overseas come and visit your church, and they will preach to your congregation. And in response to this, you take up a love offering to say, thank you so much for coming all this way. We're all going to give you a love offering so you can continue to do your ministry. And this is on top of the 10% that people are already expected to give in tithes and offerings. And now you're giving extra money for this specific person who's come to preach. So it's usually like the big name speaker that comes to a conference, etc. Now at the Women's Colour Conference, there was usually about 30,000 people there. And I went and double checked with my mum. I was like, Mum, how much did we usually give for the love offering? Not for the normal tithes and offering, just the love offering. And she was like, $20 to $50 per person. 20, 50 times 30,000. That is a fuck ton of tax-free money. Just saying. Now, the only problem, and again, this is getting quite picky with this one, they showed the colour conference and they showed the women's conference and they showed the men's one. And for a mega church, like we've seen snippets of this church, U-Star Church, in, you know, when Cal's preaching and we see there's all the people there and the music, and it's giving mega church vibes. They're about to expand over to LA, like that's big. But then when we see the men's and the women's stuff, it's very small. Now I understand actors cost money. I understand that aspect. And this is where shows like this fall flat for me, because they can't go all in. They don't go all in, and then it doesn't have the right vibe. Like the colour conference that I used to go to was so massive, as I said, like 30,000 people. The entirety of Hillsong would be filled up, the church itself, and we would have overflow tents, like huge marquees outside that were overflow tents, and you could, if you couldn't get into the inside. And we'd have huge big screens up so you could be watching it live on a screen outside in the heat of Sydney. The other aspect is that these were all fully run by volunteers. I wanted more on that side. Like this is all, honestly, it's slave labor in these mega churches when they run events like this. It is actual slave labor. It's really, really dodgy, and I wish there was more light thrown on it. Now, in this show, we just have sort of like a handful of people at each one. It just didn't have the glitz and the glamour and the wow factor that those things usually have. So I think that's what was missing for me in those episodes, but I'm still glad they showcased it, and very glad they showcased the love offering scam for what it is. Now, in starting episode 6, this is the first time where I went, hang on a minute. This intro is not giving church. This is giving Star Trek. This is like a Star Trek intro. I think they've not quite got the intro part right. It's not giving me church. Now, in episode 6, we see this storyline with Moses and Izzy, where, spoiler alert, where Izzy is actually not his sister, it's his mum. And I am relating very hardcore at this time because my mum was adopted by her grandparents. So my mum's real mum is her sister, and she found out in her 30s. So I was like, oh my gosh, Mum, you have to go and watch this show. It's got your life in it. Oh my goodness. And then I'm like sitting there going, oh, well, that's why they called him Moses, because she had to give him away to save him and to save their family and all of that. Now, the ending to this episode I think was really well done. We have some really sinister Christianity on display, the way it should be. But again, I'm still finding Juno's arc very unbelievable. So there's that. Just as a reference, there are 8 episodes for season 1 of Prosper. I probably should have put that at the start. So in episode 7, we have the closeted gay pastor storyline, which I could see coming from a mile away. So Dion is the eldest son. We find out he was sent away to a Pray Away the Gay camp. This is the one thing with the evangelical church that I despised, and it was the way that they treat LGBTQIA plus folks. It's the whole, of course you're welcome, as long as you don't show any of that behavior and don't tell us any of that, and you can't embrace yourself fully. As long as you fully repress that side of yourself. Mix this with purity culture, and the church is rife with very repressed sexually repressed folks, which is probably why we have such a high incidence of sexual abuse in the church. In all churches. And it makes people terrified of their true selves. It is so harmful. I hate it. Hate it. So the fact that they showcased that, and showcased that it happens even to pastors' families. It happens because being gay is not wrong. It's not against God. It's showing that you can't pray it away. It doesn't matter how devout you are, because it's not something to change. It's something that makes a person who they are. Saying this as someone who is bi. Can't change that. And then we get to the finale. So this finale was full of drama, kept me fully entertained the entire way through. They go over to the States. It's just non-stop drama.
The devil has a hold of this church.
The devil has always had a hold of this church.
I love that line so much. It's so good. We end with Cal going off on his own desert Jesus quest, and the police are raiding the church back home. I loved the addition to Eli's character, who is his treasurer guy that he fired earlier on that I didn't mention. So welcome to Eli's character if you're just hearing about him now. Eli gives all of the evidence against the church. And I thought that was a really nice addition to his character. They had set this up for a second season. I can't imagine it going much further than what they've already done. So I think they've done a good job. I think it could have been done a lot better. But I also am not sad that I watched it. I think it was a good watch. If you are an ex-evangelical, I think it is helpful to watch shows like this, because it can solidify all the things that the reasons that you leave, right? It's like, oh yeah, that is horrible. Oh yeah, that is what it's like. Oh my gosh, it is like that. And seeing it from the outside can be so helpful to your deconstruction journey. I hope you've enjoyed this very different video to my normal. Let me know if you liked it, if you'd like to see more like this or not. please let me know. I make these videos for you guys. I hope you can like and subscribe, leave me a comment, say hi, and keep an eye out for my ex-evangelical class on deconstructing the rapture doctrine, which is coming very soon. See you there.
I am this church.